This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Featuring defense attorney, Hidden Killers daily contributor, and host of the Defense Diaries podcast, Bob Motta.
If you're accused of being the Long Island serial killer, probably the last thing you want to do is a lot of incriminating looking things. I don't know, being pen pals with another serial killer, having your wife being followed around by 50 Cent's documentary crew, and staying married to the man that you originally thought was the serial killer, but maybe not so much anymore. I don't know. Optics matter, and they're not looking all that good in this case against Rex Heuermann right now. Joining me to discuss, defense attorney Bob Motta. Bob, I'm really interested to get your take on this from a defense attorney standpoint, especially while we're talking about both, from Asa's standpoint and from Rex's. Let's start out by talking about Rex's standpoint, and now having the pen pal of the happy face killer, Mr. Keith Jesperson. And we got to see the letter, the response. I think he said thank you to him like 6 or 7 times in there and was going to take his words to heart. His words being, admit you did it and move on. What are your thoughts on the optics of all of this? If you're advising this man, Rex Heuermann, what would you be saying right now to what he's doing?
Stop it. That's what I'd be saying. I'd be beside myself. I'd be, because it's like you said, I can't think of a worse scenario than a suspected, alleged serial killer pen paling convicted serial killer and asking for insight. And like whether it's food or whatever.
Butter was brought up as well. Who was the better butter? That was the other.
Yeah, it's just a really bad look, and it smells of guilt. I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's one of those things where there's always been thoughts about a network of like these guys that all do these heinous things, these serial killers that become infamous and well-known, that they communicate with one another, because it's like a horrifically bizarre little club of individuals that are all accused and many of them convicted of doing the same type of thing, in a club that I would certainly never want to be a part of. But, for Rex to be engaged in knowing, like absolutely knowing, like the first thing I tell my clients if they're awaiting trial in jail, or in the case of Richard Allen, is look, every phone call is recorded, but for the phone calls with us, your lawyers, and every piece of mail is read and opened. And you just need to know that, like, you're not going to be able to send letters out and not expect the prison to be opening them, because they are, and they have that right to. You have a near non-existent expectation of privacy when you're in custody like that. So yeah, I'd be beside myself. I'd be like, man, like, you've pretty much just made your bed in terms of the court of public opinion. And that court of public opinion, while in and of itself does not matter, that is where our jury pool comes from. And the 12 people that we're going to have to pull at your trial are going to come from that court of public opinion. And this is a bad look.
Where do you think it's going? I mean, obviously there is so much bad or so much good evidence against Rex Heuermann, and very bad looking in terms of everything for him, as far as DNA literally being on the bodies, including his wife's, which we'll talk about in a little bit. I mean, it all looks very damning. We're wondering now, of course, is he linked to other ones? That's still going to be up in the air. I imagine he is. Is this going to ever end up at trial, you think? Or is this the mounting of evidence going to just continue, and maybe he will kind of slink away going, yep, you got me. What's the point of going through all of that? I don't know.
I mean, it depends. Like the bottom line is, and I don't know, as I sit here right now, whether or not they've elected for the death penalty. I believe that it's on the table in New York. I believe that's something that he's eligible for. Do you know that answer?
I do not know the answer to that. I believe he's eligible, but I don't know if it's where that's.
I don't know. I don't know if they have either. So if they elect to go after the death penalty, then the odds of, I mean, it depends. If they elect to go for the death penalty and they don't make him a life without the possibility of parole offer, then he's got no downside to go to trial. None. If they don't elect, then he still kind of doesn't have a downside to go to trial. Because, I mean, if he's found guilty, he's done for anyway, even if it's life without possibility. And the upside is potentially he can win if he thinks that his lawyers can get the job done if he thinks that they can create reasonable doubt. And again, like every case, I'm not privy to the discovery. I certainly, when I look at that bond application and what would have been a PCA had it not been indicted by the grand jury, the attached basic investigation and facts that they dug up in evidence. And I like is as much as I think that the PCA against Allen is weak, that's how strong I feel about the evidence that they have against Heuermann. So in light of that, I think that it will go to trial. Ultimately. I mean, is that beyond the scope that if they elect and they say, okay, well, we'll give you a life deal, that he takes it? He might, if he's going to take the happy face killer's advice and just cop to it and start his life as a serial killer and do all the weird stuff that those guys do, just kind of basking in their glory of weirdness and being horrible humans, because there's just people out there that are into that kind of thing and pen pal, and they get fans, so to speak. They get people that want to get close to them. They want to have conversations with him. It's like there's all kinds out there, Tony. So, sure. And if he's going to kind of resign himself to the fact that, all right, well, I think they got me, so I might as well just cop to it. I mean, maybe in that sense, we don't get the trial. Yeah, but ultimately, if he doesn't, obviously it'll go to trial. And it'll take forever, just like they all do, 2-3 years to get to trial. And it's obviously an ongoing investigation. They're clearly trying to put more victims on him. So, and we know that those things are active. I know we talked about it a few weeks ago. We can't feel too great about what's going on with Suffolk County and the law enforcement out there. That seems to have fallen apart when Harrison kind of like out of the blue just resigned. So there's a lot of moving parts with it. On those things, when you kind of factor those things in, we've talked about that. Like, how do they play into this? Are they at all in any way connected? Is there something there that might, like the politics of it, can put us in a rabbit hole that we could speculate forever about, and like potentially what could happen with this thing. But if none of those things are going on and it's just your typical, look, we got to get this thing to trial, then it's just going to be a matter of the cops are still doing all the investigation. Anything that they find along the way has to be tendered to the defense along the way. It's like there is no trial by ambush. You can't just surprise the defense with testimony and or witnesses and or evidence that hasn't been tendered. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes, but it'll be interesting to keep following it because the thing just keeps getting weirder and weirder as it goes along.
Want to listen ad-free? Want advanced access to all of our interviews before anyone else?
Become a True Crime Today Premium Plus subscriber on Apple Podcasts.
You get every episode commercial-free,
so you can binge on true crime
until you can binge no more.
Search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts now, or go to our podcast page and sign up now.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast next.